Doink. Gulp.
Hey there good people, once again it's the 8-Bit Academic with another round of old school gaming and fun facts. In today's episode, I'll once again be talking about the game I'm showcasing here, or rather more accurately be telling you about its protagonist and the fictional universe he inhabits, and why he is one of the most underrated and badass comic characters of all time. But first, let's talk about his very first video game appearance that happened way back in the year 1997 in a game called Turok Dinosaur Hunter, which in my opinion is one of the best first-person shooters ever made, and thanks to Night Dive Studios' remaster back in 2015, still very much holds up today if you can look past the 90s era 3D graphics. Turok Dinosaur Hunter was based on the then popular Native American comic book character Turok, who had a successful run dating back as far as the 1950s, but under a different publisher and a somewhat different characterization, but with a similar idea of him being trapped in a lost world where he has to fight to survive against ferocious dinosaurs that definitely saw him as their next meal.
Can I pet that dog?
No.
Can I pet that dog?
No.
Can I pet that dog?
No, he's
Can I
sleeping.
pet that dog?
In the late 80s, however, Turok saw a revamp and was updated for a more modern audience, only this time his enemies would be more than just dinosaurs, as he would also face off against aliens, mutants, killer robots, cyborgs, gods, superhuman beings, demons, and a whole host of other supernatural enemies. It was this new 90s Turok that the aforementioned video game was based off. Developed by Acclaim Entertainment and published by Acclaim for the Nintendo 64 console and Microsoft Windows, the story sees our hero travel through time and various dimensions to take on the hordes of an evil overlord known only as the Campaigner, who wishes to reconstruct an ancient weapon called the Chronoscepter, which will allow him to destroy the barrier between his dimension called the Lost Land and Earth, which will grant him the opportunity to invade and conquer our planet for himself. It's up to Turok to prevent him from doing so by collecting the various artifacts needed to build the Chronoscepter and killing every single member of his army, as well as a couple of hungry dinos along the way. Critical reception of Turok was highly positive, becoming one of the most popular games at the time upon its release, and won praise for its graphics and evolution of the genre from many game critics. The game sold 1.5 million copies and even boosted sales of the Nintendo 64, since it also became the most popular game on that console in 1997 and 1998. Turok spawned a video game franchise that includes a direct sequel titled Turok 2 Seeds of Evil in 1998, Turok 3 Shadows of Oblivion in 2000, and a prequel, Turok Evolution, in 2002, as well as an attempted franchise reboot in 2008 for the PS3 and Xbox 360. But as I had mentioned earlier, long before it became a successful video game franchise, Turok had its start way back in the year 1954 as an adventure comic series under the title Turok Son of Stone, published by Western Publishing through licensee Dell Comics, and was written by either Matthew H. Murphy, Paul S. Newman, and Gaylord Dubois.
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
You are gay.
But as for who actually created the character of Turok, no one really knows, since even among comic book historians, it is disputed to this day. All we know is that the all-powerful Gaylord and his colleagues seem to have been the feature's earliest known writers. Under Western publishing, Turok was featured as a Native American that lived in the time prior to Christopher Columbus's arrival to the Americas and the following European colonial period. So basically, the good old days. The first adventures of the Son of Stone appeared in the 4-color comics anthology from 1954 to 1956, after which he would eventually appear in his own dedicated series. The original story for Turok saw our badass Native American hero and his younger brother Andar somehow ending up in a strange and mysterious location called the Lost Valley, where time seems to have progressed very slowly. So slow that dinosaurs still inhabit the jungles and plains of this isolated world. The story then mostly centers around them trying to survive this harsh and unknown environment whilst also attempting to find a way to escape and go back home. The series ran for about 27 issues under Western Publishing and Dell Comics until 1962, after which it was then picked up by Gold Key Comics and published until 1980, with the last couple of issues being published until 1982 by Western Publishing under its Whitman Comics imprint. Turok would only resurface again in 1992 after being bought over by Valiant Comics, where he would experience a bit of a rebranding with slight adjustments being made to his origin story and his overall character, this time being presented as part of the Valiant Comics superhero universe. For those who don't know Valiant Comics and whose only experience and knowledge of superheroes comes from Marvel and DC, do yourselves a favor and go check them out. As of 2012, the company has made a comeback as Valiant Entertainment and reintroduced all their superheroes to the wonderful world of comics yet again. Definitely one of the more underrated comic publishers outside of Marvel and DC, in my opinion, with some pretty unique characters and heroes as well. Anyway, under the 1992 Valiant Comics imprint, a new Turok was introduced, taking massive inspiration from blockbuster action films at the time. This new Turok was more muscular and from time to time would also use assault rifles and machine guns instead of bows and arrows, as well as facing off against aliens, mutants, and other nasty abominations instead of just dinosaurs. It was at this time as well that Turok would go from being called the Son of Stone to being called Dinosaur Hunter. With this version, the concept and setting were completely altered. Turok and Andar were now 18th century Native Americans. The isolated valley became the Lost Lands, a land where demons, dinosaurs, and aliens flourish, and where time has no meaning, explained by the ever-so sci-fi concept of a cosmic anomaly that causes time in the Lost Lands to move in a self-contained loop, which means that while millions of years pass outside of it, inside it, time barely moves at all. In their own version of Avengers Endgame or Zack Snyder's Justice League, Valiant Comics had its own stint of crossover craziness, with an 18-issue storyline titled Unity, which went on to alter the concept of the Lost Lands even further. The crossover's main villain, a psychotic superpowered being known as Mother God, uses the Lost Lands as her base of operations. She outfits dinosaurs with intelligence-boosting implants, turning them into Bionosaurs. God, that sounds so cheesy but awesome at the same time. I miss the 90s. And yes, I am getting old. In the aftermath of the final battle between Mother God and the Valiant Universe heroes, the Lost Lands begin to disappear. Turok and Andar are tossed into a post-apocalyptic future Earth, and a group of Bionosaurs make it to Earth along with them. Following this, they become ruthless hunters trying to contend with the demons and aliens that exist in this f***ed up future Earth, as well as various Lovecraftian abominations and high-tech cyborg warriors. Mother God seizes power in this future and begins to rebuild her empire as she attempts to hunt down and kill both Turok and Andar. Unfortunately, thanks to capitalistic events, this version of Turok was sadly short-lived, along with all the rest of the Valiant Universe heroes like Shadow Man, Ninja, Solar, Exo Manowar, and Bloodshot, among others. Valiant Comics would end up being bought over and owned and ran into the ground by the worst thing to happen to a comic book franchise. Acclaim Entertainment.
You stink!
Who, while they funded the development of a few awesome video games based on some of these characters, like some of the Turok games and the freaking awesome Shadow Man game, they still messed up everything in the long run and are probably the reason why most people don't know about the superheroes of the Valiant Comics universe and why Marvel and DC dominate almost everything with regards to comics, superheroes, and nerd culture to this day.
We had a good thing, you stupid son of a bitch. It was perfect, but no, you just had to blow it up. You and your pride and your ego. You just had to be the man. If you'd done your job, known your place, we'd all be fine right now.
If they ever invent time travel, I'm definitely going back to stop Acclaim from buying up Valiant Comics, or at least try to convince Acclaim to not perform all those weird business practices such as failing to pay royalties and screwing over the employees, and absolutely terrible marketing campaigns like attempting to purchase advertising space on tombstones for Shadow Man's second coming.
We were on the verge of greatness. We were this close.
However, despite Acclaim's demise, Turok's story wouldn't end there, as an attempt at trying to revive the character would take place at the very end of the 2000s, this time under yet another underrated comic publisher in the shadow of Marvel and DC called Dark Horse Comics, but one that is arguably more known thanks to the massive success of the Hellboy franchise and its various English translations of popular manga like Akira and Ghost in the Shell. The new Turok series, this time going back to the character's roots, titled Turok Son of Stone once again, was launched by Dark Horse Comics under license by Classic Media in 2010. The title was written by former Valiant Comics writer Jim Shooter and illustrated by Eduardo Francisco. This was one of many titles released by Dark Horse that year based on classic Gold Key Comics properties. The entire line, including Turok, was short-lived however, with Turok only lasting 4 issues. Dynamite Entertainment would then launch a new Turok comic series again titled Turok Dinosaur Hunter, as well as books based on other Gold Key Comics properties, as part of a licensing deal with DreamWorks Classics. The creative team on the title was Greg Pak and Mirko Kolak. This comic series was released in 2014, but once again, it was short-lived, as the series ended after only 12 issues. In 2016, Turok appeared in a 5-issue miniseries called Gold Key Alliance, written by Phil Hester and illustrated by Brent Peoples. Dynamite published a second Turok comic series titled Turok, written by Chuck Wendig and illustrated by Alvaro Saraceza in 2017. It also featured backup stories starring fellow Gold Key character Dr. Spectre. Turok is also featured in a number of video games like the ones mentioned earlier under Acclaim Entertainment, the first of which is being featured in this video, as well as at least one attempted reboot. The character has been portrayed in novels based on said video games, as well as an extremely violent animated film, Turok Son of Stone, which was released in 2008. So as we can see, time hasn't been very kind to the dinosaur hunting Son of Stone, going from being a fairly popular comic character that had a widely successful run from the mid-1950s to the mid-1990s, as well as being featured in one of the most successful first-person shooter games of all time that is considered an early pioneer in the genre, to now simply having faded into the background of miniseries and short features, which is actually quite sad and disappointing, especially in today's ongoing debate surrounding diversity in entertainment, where it seems like most so-called diverse characters are either race-swapped versions of already established characters or are blatant stereotypes with the exact same copy-paste fashion sense, personality traits, and hairstyles. When one goes deep enough into the rabbit hole of comic books and nerd entertainment, one will indeed come across a wide variety of diverse characters that came before, like Turok, who, as far as I know, is one of the very few Native American characters in comic books and video games. One can only wonder why such characters are never paid attention to or brought to the spotlight in current times, especially when everybody claims to care about diversity and representation in modern entertainment. There are plenty of diverse superheroes that date back to the 80s and 90s, which definitely deserve some attention, and it is an absolute failing on the part of Hollywood and the entertainment industry, who claim to stand for diversity, that a character like Turok and many others I plan to do videos on in the future have all simply been left to fade into obscurity. Here's hoping that the recently announced Turok Origins game will revive interest in the franchise once again and bring the baddest Native American character back to life in all of his dinosaur hunting glory. Anyway, that's it for now, folks. Once again, thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel if you enjoy my content. Share it with your friends, and I'll see you in the next episode of the 8-Bit Academic.
This is not the time to criticize. I can't work with you blaming shit on me all the time. This is not your fault. This is not your fault. No. Bullshit, Mike. Everything's your fault.